Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, check. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Check, check. Bruh. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Okay. All right. No. Okay. All right. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what's so
They're in the gate. And they're off. Very even start. Foothill in the center of the course is out quickly. So is Barsabas. Far outside, Spirit Maker and Crew Dragon in the mix too. At the rail, Limu Bai, followed by Percolate, who now settles in between horses. One Fast Bro is already 8 lengths off the speed. Half Barber Binji second to last, and oncoming at the back of the field. It's Barsabas to set the pace at the 6 furlong pole, leading by just under a length to Foothill second. A length and a half, Spirit Maker a 3 wide third. Percolate tucked in neatly at the rail fourth, and Crew Dragon fifth, about 3 lengths off the pace. Another 3 back to Limu Bai, who's just in front of One Fast Bro. At the back of the field, half Barber Binji and oncoming. About 8 or 9 covers them, half mile to go, Barsabas to catch. Leading the way by a half length. Foothill Eager second, a length and a half. Spirit Maker 3 wide third still, and Percolate is down at the rail. Crew Dragon in the bright orange, 4 lengths off the lead. A gap of 3 to One Fast Bro, Limu Bai, oncoming, and half Barber Binji. They're a quarter of a mile from home, and Foothill on the outside on even terms with Barsabas. Spirit Maker under a hard ride on the outside in the green. Percolate angles out. He's had a perfect trip, and he has every chance with a furlong left to go. From the back, One Fast Bro and oncoming are both finishing with interest. A 16th to run. Barsabas confronted by Percolate. Percolate on the outside goes by in the final stages. Oncoming is flying, and Percolate, an absolutely perfect ride from Johnny V, makes the difference and gets the W. Oncoming second, photo third between Foothill and One Fast Bro. Behind them, Barsabas was battling with half Barber Binji. Take charge, Curly to the outside. And they're off. Very even start with Pacific States now emerging with a narrow lead. Stop and a Tress up close. At the rail, Trusty Rusty coming through to vie for the lead. And Lord Mo is a close-up fourth, just a length and a half off the leader. Then Take Charge Curly and Golden Spa at the back. Heading to the half-mile pole, and Trusty Rusty has established a clear-cut lead of a length and a half. In second, Stop and a Tress on the inside of Pacific States, who now puts his head into second. A 3 wide Lord Mo is 3.5 lengths off this leader, Trusty Rusty, who's trying to get away. And Trusty Rusty has a 3-length lead now. Pacific States clearly second. Stop and a Tress at the rail, followed by Golden Spa, who's come out of last into fourth, 5 lengths off the lead. Take Charge Curly is next. Lord Mo, the distant trailer, top of the lane. And it's Trusty Rusty still in front. Stop and a Tress coming through along the inside. And Golden Spa continues to storm home in the center of the track. And Golden Spa up to take the lead at the 16th pole from Stop and a Tress. In second, it's Golden Spa winning convincingly. Stop and a Tress was second. Pacific States third in front of Trusty Rusty. Up next to third, it's the start of the Coast to Coast, pick 5. Player friendly, 15%. They're in the gate. And they're off. Whose Candy is very quick away from the gate, joined by Elevado. Uncle George is on the far outside. Down at the rail, it's Our Shining Light. And here's Encode now coming right after the front-running Whose Candy. And those two head and head past the half-mile pole. Elevado is now in third. Our Shining Light racing in fourth. Then comes Really Big News. Wi-Fire is about 8 or 9 lengths off the lead as they string out. Followed then by Naismith, New York Dream second to last, and Blame George is at the back of the field. They have a quarter of a mile to go, and it's Whose Candy the leader. Elevado making a 3-wide bid after them, and Code is down at the rail. On the far outside is Uncle George, and Our Shining Light is trying to get involved, one from the rail. Final eighth of a mile for Whose Candy. Our Shining Light a length back second, and closing the gap a bit. Whose Candy a length and a half. Our Shining Light trying to nail him on the money. Our Shining Light got up. Whose Candy was second. Third to Uncle George. 3-way photo between Naismith, Wi-Fi, and Really Big News.
And they're off. Good start from between horses for Living Water, who heads off of the early lead, moving out the rail. New
Going in. And they're off. Very even start. Vegas Dream. Sugar has some early speed. In between them, Justin's Lady has emerged and is up to take second. Sapadilla now third on the outside. And Rosie Edge is coming through at the rail, taking third. Sugar now in mid-pack. Inside Alex's Girl, about 5 off the lead. Saddle Up Jesse, Nearest and Dearest is 4 wide. The two trailers feeling flush. And Warren Showbiz is at the back. 3 furlongs out. Vegas Dream to catch. Leads it by a length to Sapadilla in second. It's 3 more to Nearest and Dearest, making steady headway, taking third. Down at the rail, Rosie Edge. Justin's Lady is losing ground. Sugar moving up far outside. Alex's Girl is 8 lengths off the lead. Saddle Up Jesse is just in front with the Blue Silks angling out for the drive. They turn for home, and it's a wide open scramble for the money. Here's Rosie Edge splitting horses, trying to get involved, and on the outside, Saddle Up Jesse is closing stoutly. Sapadilla has the lead. Sapadilla, Rosie Edge on the inside. Nearest and Dearest in the yellow, finishing best of all, and Nearest and Dearest scores in a driving finish. Tight photo between Rosie Edge and Sapadilla. Then it was Saddle Up Jesse, 5th between Warren Showbiz and Sugar. They're in the gate, and they're off. Cabernet very quick. Tis Lightning has plenty of speed too. These two clear off with Midnight Special third, racing on the outside of El Diablo Rojo. Then King of Speed, 6 lengths off the leader. Horn of Plenty is next, followed by River Tiber, Big Bad Gary, Golden Image is outside of that pair, and a gap of 5, Box of Chocolates the distant trailer. They move into the far turn with Tis Lightning on the inside, Cabernet right there second. El Diablo Rojo a threatening third. Then Midnight Special fourth as El Diablo Rojo's looking for room down at the rail and trying to slip through a very narrow opening, approaching the quarter pole. Just behind them, Horn of Plenty is joining the fray. About 3 lengths off the lead in the blue on the outside. They're at the top of the stretch. Tis Lightning. El Diablo Rojo came outside of him. Center of the track, Horn of Plenty continues to finish strongly, and he's up, posing a major threat with a 16th of a mile to come. El Diablo Rojo, Horn of Plenty on the outside, goes right on by. And it's Horn of Plenty to win it going away. El Diablo Rojo second. Box of Chocolates came from last to nab third in front of Midnight Special, and Tiz Lightning completes the super high five. They're in the gate, and they're off. The key is Unity, broke inward. Here's Devil Moon emerging with the lead. On the far outside, Big Flint moves into second pretty easily. Mitad del Mundo is in third, followed at the rail by Lottery Pick, who now is a joint third into the first turn. That group is followed by Attenzione racing on the outside of Roy C. And a three wide, the key is Unity, is 10 lengths off the now loose leader. Another two to Ivory Sky, and Tim's Tribute is far back. They swing onto the backstretch, and Devil Moon with the pedal to the metal has opened up 6 or 7. Lottery Pick second by 4. Then comes Big Flint on the outside of Mitad del Mundo. Another 3 lengths back to the next flight. The key is Unity, is widest of all, with less than a half mile to go. Just inside of him comes Attenzione. Roy C. is losing a bit of ground at this stage. Passed now by Ivory Sky, and still another 5 or so to Tim's Tribute. Midway on the far turn, and it's Devil Moon loose. And Devil Moon still with a huge lead and a quarter of a mile to finish it up. Lottery Pick now starts to eat into the ground, as does Mitad del Mundo. They turn for home. Devil Moon has been caught and passed by Lottery Pick, who opens up to Mitad del Mundo, becoming the big threat on the outside. It's Lottery Pick, Mitad del Mundo. Mitad del Mundo grinding away on the outside, gets the lead close to home, and it's Mitad del Mundo. That's 2 for Frankie Dettori. Lottery Pick was second. Third went to Big Flint. Photo for fourth, Attenzione and Ivory Sky. They're in the gate. And they're off. Quick Intro is going to the front. Thanks Maggio has speed. Big Sweet along the inside. Nolo Contesto Extreme outside is very quick as well. And having some difficulty there was Careless Kitten steadying off horse's heels, and not the smoothest run through the first turn for SoCal Red either. Back up top, it's Quick Intro in front, leading the way by a half to Nolo Contesto second, Big Sweet, good spot third. Then it's Thanks Maggio fourth, 4 lengths off the dueling leaders, Careless Kitten on the outside. Another length back to Sippin' and Kissin', who's 2 in front of a hard-ridden SoCal Red. Hoodlum is down at the rail, and Granada Flavor between those two. Then it's a gap of 4 to the gray, Chris Fix, who's the distant trailer and asked to get closer now. Less than a half mile to go, and Nolo Contesto is the new leader, opening up a length on Quick Intro second. Big Swede, Thanks Maggio together third and fourth. And now Big Swede takes third for himself, moving into second at the 3/8 pole after Nolo Contesto. Nolo Contesto 2-length lead. Big Swede clearly into second. Quick Intro is in third. Then Thanks Maggio retreating. Down at the rail, Hoodlum is making some headway. Sippin' and Kissin' White Cap outside of him as the field turns for home. Also out of the back is Granada Flavor getting a piece of it. In the meantime, Nolo Contesto has built up a 5-length lead. Big Swede couldn't keep up. On the outside, Granada Flavor trying to get into second. A late run from Chris Fix, who was last and is going to get into the try, maybe the exacta. It's all Nolo Contesto romping. Second to Granada Flavor, fending off Chris Fix. Fourth to Big Swede, and Hoodlum completes the super high five. They're in the gate. And they're off in the Astra Stakes. It was a smooth beginning. Lady Clementine is hustled out to take the early lead. Australia Mia comes away a clear-cut second in the early going, and Tiz and Adventure on the outside is third as they move around the trees for the run in toward the stretch. Down at the rail, Queen of the Temple settles nicely in fourth. 2 lengths back to New Heat fifth, 6 lengths off the pace. Barrister's Ride inches up just outside of her. They're followed by Almost a Factor. Duvet Day is next. And it's a gap of 4 back to Warren's Candy Girl, who trails. Into the stretch for the first time, and Flavian Pratt and Lady Clementine are uncontested on the front end. They lead it by 2 over Australia Mia in second. Tiz and Adventure galloping along in the center of the course third. Queen of the Temple at the rail, Yellow Cap, just cruising along at this stage, 4 lengths off the lead with a lap to go. New Heat is next, racing on the outside of Almost a Factor. Barrister's Ride, Duvet Day, and Warren's Candy Girl continues to trail. Lady Clementine has a 2-length lead, bet the 6 furlong pole. Australia Mia in the orange colors second. Queen of the Temple continues to save ground at the rail. Tiz an Adventure is just in front of her. New Heat is fifth, 5 lengths off the lead. Almost a Factor is next. A length and a half back to Barrister's Ride, outside Duvet Day, and Warren's Candy Girl. There's a half mile to go in the Astra Stakes, and they're chasing Lady Clementine, who's been there every step of the way. Australia Mia within about a half length now in second. Tiz an Adventure, Queen of the Temple, New Heat, and Almost a Factor. There's been virtually no change in the running order. Barrister's Ride passing a couple of rivals on the outside with the purple cap, Duvet Day and Warren's Candy Girl. There's a quarter of a mile to go, and Queen of the Temple now cut loose on the outside, switches to the 3-path, and comes to pounce on Lady Clementine. Between them, it's Australia Mia. They're a furlong from the finish, and Queen of the Temple has taken charge. Australia Mia's in second. Duvet Day is finishing very strongly on the outside, and here she comes. And Duvet Day unleashed under Kazushi Kimura to win the Astra Stakes. Queen of the Temple was second. Australia Mia, Almost a Factor, and Warren's Candy Girl. "20 minutes to post for race 9. It's the start of the golden hour, pick 4. Mentirosa goes in. They're in the gate. And they're off. Black Magician, very quick away from the gate, takes the lead at once. Showing good speed in between horses is top of the game. And down on the inside, it's King Adrock. Crowning Gold is in the mix too. And it's Crowning Gold battling with Mark's Hip. Mark's Hip between rivals takes the lead. Crowning Gold second. King Adrock at the rail in third. Then Black Magician far outside. At the rail, it's Mr. Beams. Army Star is in between those two. It's a gap of 3 back to Mentirosa, who races on the outside of rivals, about 8 lengths off the speed at this stage. At the rail, it's Stay in the Game. Warren's World is trying to launch a bid from well out of it. And another 3, Argentina Cries, and Top of My Game is the trailer. In the meantime, Crowning Gold takes the lead at the top of the stretch and is the one to catch. Down at the rail, King Adrock fighting on very willingly, just a half length back in second. 4 more lengths, Stay in the Game, angles out with the yellow blinkers and is finishing very nicely. It's Crowning Gold, Stay in the Game's coming fast. Crowning Gold, lead diminishing, Stay in the Game flying, Stay in the Game, and Tiago Pereira times it to perfection. Crowning Gold second. Then it was Army Star, Warren's World, and King Adrock. Five, carryover. They're in the gate. And they're off. Hawker hustled right out of there. Phosphorescence matches strides in the early going. Just behind them, it's Conclude, and Zio Joe is racing in fourth. Then One of These Days, fifth and on the far outside. Fleet Feet in the yellow colors is moving up in traffic, one from the rail. A couple of lengths back to Valiant Sir, racing on the inside of Xander, with Get Crackin' in the line cap 7 lengths off the lead. That group is followed by Pioneer Prince. Dandyman Shines in the red colors is trying to weave through traffic at this stage, passing a couple of horses, and Baltazar is at the back of the field. Phosphorescence takes charge into the far turn, chased by Conclude a half length back in second. Down at the rail, Hawker battles on. He's under a little bit of pressure in third. One of These Days on the outside. Zio Joe is racing between those two. Dandyman Shines in the red will switch about 6 wide, turning for home as Conclude is up to take the lead, chased by Hawker, who's resurgent on the outside. Coming to the 16th pole, Conclude 2-length advantage. Hawker chasing with determination. It's down to these two. Conclude, Hawker on the outside. Hawker gets up to beat Conclude. Dandyman Shines was third. Valiant Sir was fourth, and it's a photo for fifth. Phosphorescence on the inside of Fleet Feet to complete the super high five. The late pick 4 today paid more than $5,000. The pick 5, $22,177.70.
You're in a treat for the next 35 minutes or so. That's because our seminar guest today is an extraordinary human being. You're going to find him to be extremely interesting. Why do I say that? Well, if you've ever been to San Anita, you'll remember the old establishment across the street called the 100 to 1. It was a bar/karaoke place. He was the proprietor of that establishment. He also owns many racehorses. He's a horse player. He's here every single day. He also reads the sheets in order to help him handicap. And more importantly, he's extremely generous and always upbeat. I'm welcome to join in with me today on the seminar, Bryan Carney. Bryan, happy Sunday. Welcome to the
happy
seminar.
Sunday, Tom. It's great to be back. You know, I did this seminar with you a long time ago, but Tom and I go back a long way. I used to catch Tom, this is going back to Fairplex days. And I used to, I'd always give him my triple star of the day. You know, I sort of known
From
people
the sheets.
From the sheets. I've been playing Ragusan sheets since 1985. And a very smart fella taught me some basic readings of the sheets. And you can't get too sophisticated with them because you don't want to outsmart them. It's very simple. If you can count to 20 and less, you should be able to understand the sheets. But it is truly patterns. Just like humans have good days and bad days, horses run in cycles. So what you're always trying to find is the horse that has the best cycle, the best pattern, that's going to run a specific number that day. I basically, when I look at a race, I can now handicap race. I've been doing it since 85. I can pretty much handicap a race in about 4 minutes. Okay, just looking at cheats. And people laugh when I qualify for NHC and stuff and say, so where's all your stuff? And I say, well, there it is right here. And on there are my Ragusan sheets that I download. And I go through each race and I look for key patterns. I look for what we call hidden races. And but getting back to Tom and Fairplex, I used to give him my triple play of the day, and one day he said to me, he says, have you ever decided to play in a handicapping contest? And I said, no, that's a waste of time. And he says, oh, no, he goes, you ought to consider doing that. You pick a lot of winners. So he said, by the way, there's a contest coming up at Fairplex. Why don't you come and play? Well, I went and played. I won the tournament, and I qualified to go to Vegas for the NHC. So after that point, if you ever get the NHC once, you always fight to get back every year because it's the most amazing experience you'll ever have.
It's funny you would bring that up, Bryan, because we have a $40 on-track contest today that we'll talk about a little bit later. And also amongst your other accolades that I failed to mention in the openings, you're also a political lobbyist. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got a lot of ground to cover. But before we talk about any of that, let's take a look at memories of the 100 to 1 bar karaoke establishment across the street.
Boy.
We've got an old picture from the bar that I wanted to show. Many of you have been in this establishment. Unfortunately, it is no longer there. It was demolished in order to make room for the new hotel across the street, the Le Méridien. And the reason why I wanted to show this picture, Bryan, is because it's a little bit hard to see, but kind of in the top left-hand corner, you can see the TV screen. And what is that TV screen tuned to? None other than TVG. Back in the days of HRTV and back in the days of TVG, no matter what was going on in the bar, no matter what songs were being sung on karaoke, you always had a horse racing theme to the bar. And of course, many people right here from the Great Race Place would come over and visit.
Oh, there's no question. We've had, you know, I always used to say the 100 to 1 was like the great equalizer, just like horse racing, you know, from grooms to the wealthiest owners in the world, that we all sort of loved the sport, loved being involved in the sport. And we'd have grooms in the bar and we'd have the wealthiest owners in the world in the bar, you know, and the best jockeys, you know, on Breeders' Cup, the Tory, the whole gang would come in there. And
worldwide.
And it was just an amazing, what a 20-year run, I will tell you that.
If those walls could speak, could you imagine what they could tell us in retrospect?
We'd get some pretty good tips every once in a while. I had a horse. I actually, when I first bought the bar, they had just put in the new no smoking in bar effect. And I built a porch in back of the bar. When the guy was selling it to me, I went back and I had a bunch of garbage in the back of the place. And I looked at it and said, wow, this would be a great place to put a patio for smoking. So there was an exercise rider, worked for a very famous trainer. And I named the porch after him, just between me. We never put his name up on the wall. But his particular trainer that he galloped for had two horses in that day. One that he'd given $1 million for, and the other one that he had bought for himself for about $50,000. And he had told me ahead of time that the $50,000 one would rip the head off of the one that they paid $1 million for, and the one was 12 to 1, and the other one was 4 to 5. Well, they turned for home, and sure enough, the 12 to 1 shot blows away the $1 million horse. They run 1-2. And I made enough money to build a really beautiful patio with an overhang to the back of the bar, and from day one we honored the non-smoking ordinance, and I think that actually gave a lot of credence to the success of the bar over the years.
We're hoping that Bryan can blow us away with his selections on today's 9-race card. He's going to teach us a little bit about how to read the sheets. We're going to show an example as well, besides getting his selections. But before we do any of that, let's toss the microphone over to track announcer Frank Miramati and get the early changes on today's card here at the Great Race Place.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. Track is fast, turf is firm, rail on the turf out 10 feet today. Here are the changes. Blinker note in the first. Start of the 50-cent early pick 5. In the second, scratch number 2, a new piece. In race 3, no program changes. In the fourth, scratch number 4, Blazing Bardot. The fourth race starts the Rainbow 6 with 145,000 in the jackpot pool. There were no tickets with 6 winners yesterday. In the fifth race, no high 5, scratch number 6, Tembo. In the sixth, we have a blinker note. In the seventh, there are no changes. Eighth race starts the golden hour pick 4, scratch 6, Mongolian Panther. And in the ninth, scratch number 12, Conceal and Carry. Golden hour double starts with race 9. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park. Let's go back to Quigley's Corner. Tom's special guest today is Bryan Carney.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with Bryan Carney. He is a horse owner, a horse player. He's been doing so for the last 4 decades or so. Among other things we didn't talk about, and there's so much to talk about, Bryan. Obviously, as a parent, you always want something better for your child, and you have a son who's really rocking it up within the career ranks. He works for Google right now. He's got a great job. You're very proud of him. Let's touch upon him from a family standpoint for a moment.
Well, he's an only child, and Michael's been in a very interesting and challenging, but an incredibly successful journey that we've had as a family together. He joined Google right out of college. He went to a little Jesuit school in New Orleans called Loyola University, and it's right next to Tulane. That's where you could sort of put the spot, but it is close to the fairgrounds, which when I would go see him always sort of worked out pretty well, actually. But he is in the ad sales department. He has a group of 4 people, and the last quarter, I can be proud to say that his pod was the #1 pod in all of North America, which is a big accomplishment for him. He's come a really long way. He's got a bright future. I know they announced a huge layoff, but they never lay off the good marketing people.
The people who bring in the revenue, right?
Right. I always told when he was first starting his career, don't take no support jobs. Don't take no, HR or any of that kind of stuff. Just stay in sales, make your numbers all the time, and believe me, they will never bother you, and you'll have free reign as to whatever you want to do in your life. And it has worked out that way.
It's been great to follow him throughout his schooling, and now, like you said, at basically the start of his career. So congratulations to you and your wife for raising a wonderful son. You talked about the fairgrounds, of course, being close to Loyola. You had a winner at the fairgrounds earlier in this week. You owned a horse who actually broke the maiden.
Yeah, I get to practice what I preach. Many years ago, there was a trainer out here who was very, very crafty, and he used to tell me when he'd be smoking his little cigarettes, and he'd say, Bryan, You know, people think horses learn how to lose. He says, I can tell you, they don't know nothing about horses. Okay. He said, because a horse never learns how to lose. They don't lose that instinct to try to win. He says, you can get them beat many, many, many times. He says, but then when you put them in the right spot, they will win. So sure enough, I had a 2-year-old run happy filly. She ran straight maiden, straight maiden, straight maiden, get beat 12, get beat 22, beat 18, beat 19. But her last race, I ran her in a straight maiden going a mile. And for 6 furlongs, she ran faster than most any of the maiden claiming races for 2- and 3-year-olds. And I called my trainer in Louisiana. I said, Mr. Leonard, I said, we're going to drop that filly to the bottom and we're going to win a race. I promise you she won't lose. Well, I was right about one thing. She didn't lose, but unfortunately, one other guy saw how good she ran in that mile race where she had set such a good time. And sure enough, he claimed her. So I'm sort of heartbroken that I bred this horse, watched her grow up from the time she's a baby. But, you know, you take chances. I was trying to get her eligible for starter 12 fives. And sure enough, I look at the entries yesterday, and the guy who claimed her, well, as soon as I looked and saw who claimed the horse, I was Tom knows that I love to run horses all the time. My horses, I don't like to work in the morning. When a horse works in the morning, they're 40 times more likely to get hurt than when they race in the afternoon because of the pristine surface of the track in the afternoon. In the morning, it's like trying to walk down a sidewalk with a bunch of broken tree roots in there, and you can twist your ankle pretty easy. But in the race, it's perfectly smooth, and that's why, knock on wood, I've never had a horse break down since 1989. I've been racing, and they run every couple of weeks, and my vet bills are very minuscule, and it's a really lot of fun to be able to watch your horse run. They don't have to win every time. You know, I owned a very famous horse, in my opinion, Crimson Giant. I had the good fortune to run him in the big cap, but 10 days before the racing office had called me and asked me to would I throw Crimson Giant in this classified allowance, because they were trying to get, it was a prep race for the big cap, and they had 3 grade 1 winners in the race, and they said, listen, we're going to let it go with 5. You'll get your 2% of 90,000, and you know, you get 1,800, and it'll be great. Well, it took them 8 minutes to decide the photo. My horse got beat probably a 1/16 of an inch. They tell me they had to magnify it 500 times in order to make Jerry Hollendorfer the winner. But this was a horse who had only won 1 race in his life, okay? And when he retired, he had retired with $187,000 in earnings. And he had started 86 times. And the last part of the story is when he ran his 86th start, he actually had run very well, and he was very sound. And I told the trainer, I said, Dan, I sent him up the Golden Gate. I said, so he goes, why, the horse is cooling out great. I said, well, you know, I'm going to get a hold of the place that's been trying to get me to retire this horse. So today's his last day. And I said, 86 and done. I said, you know, when you own a bar and you 86 somebody, they're never allowed back in the bar again. And he was never going to go into the starting gate again, because I wanted him to retire healthy and sound. And when he got to the farm, they told me he had the cleanest legs as you could ever find on a horse. So, which was a testament to the 86 starts that he had, that running them doesn't hurt him. Okay. But anyway, we'll go from there.
It's a testimony to not only you as an owner, Bryan, but also your trainers and the grooms and the hot walkers and everybody else. But we need some winners on today's card. That's all turf history, and that's why we brought you in here. So let's kind of roll up our sleeves and take a look at today's 9-race card, beginning in race number 1, which begins the popular 50-cent early pick 5. We're kicking things off on the turf course. The rails today are at 10 feet, and this first race is for maiden claiming fillies and mares. $50,000 is the claiming tag. We've got a field of 6. The original morning line favorite was number 3, Classy, at 8-5. However, the one taking the action at 7-5 on the tote board right now is the runner on the bottom, number 6, Above Suspicion, from the Richard Mandela barn. I know you don't love maiden claiming races because none of them have ever won before, but most of these have run. And so what do the sheets kind of tell you for this first race?
Okay, they have enough numbers here that I actually like a horse quite a bit here. I actually like George Papadromo's horse, the 2, Violent Storm. Kent DeSormo, since he's come back, when Kent is at the top of his game, Kent's probably one of the best.
He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Yeah, he's one of the best riders, and he's especially good in riding on the grass, in my opinion, and getting horses to relax. And the pattern of this horse, he tells me that he has, two good numbers to go back to. He has a 17, two 17s on the grass. His last race was on the dirty. He ran at 21. So you throw that out. So his two 17s compare very well with the bottom horse, who is the heavy favorite, above suspicion. He just ran a 21 and an 18. So, like I said, it's pretty easy with the sheets. The lower the number, the better the horse. So I'm going to bet a horse with a 17 over a horse with an 18 every time.
For first racing
Brian's
on
top
Michelle,
selection, number 2, Violet Storm, putting blinkers on for George Papadromo. You can see right now on the tote board is 6-1. Brian, before we take a look at race number 2, you're talking about the sheet numbers. I want to show an example, actually. This is from Skip Away, way back when, winning the Breeders' Cup Classic at Hollywood Park. And if you're either a little bit hungover or you're a little bit woozy, you probably don't want to look at this graphic because it looks like complete hieroglyphics. It looks nothing like the racing form. And you talked about the lower the number, the better. And you talked about how Violet Storm in race number 1 here at the Great Race Place earned 17s. Well, you can see if you zoom in that Skip Away's last number on the left there was actually a 1. In other words, the closer a horse gets to 0, the better they become, and they're more likely grade 1 animals.
Yes,
but
great.
I don't want to stare at this forever, but you can see that it's a very different format, and it really is kind of an art and a science in terms of reading the sheets.
And one of the other things, when you look at a sheet, you have 5 years of their career right in front of you, which you don't have when you look in the racing form. Okay, and I'm not trying to pick on the racing form.
No, none of us are.
Okay, but you can tell soundness. Like when you look in the race form and they just have a line that says he's been off more than 30 days, it doesn't have impact. But if you look at certain sheets, you'll see gap, 3 months, gaps. And, I look at that really closely to determine when a horse is coming off of a gap, depending upon how long it is. They'll come back to that gap number a lot of times if they need a race, you can eliminate lots of favorites when you can eliminate a horse based upon it needs a race before it's going to get to its good number.
And just like the racing form, Brian, people can look at the same set of past performances of the same sheet and come up with different conclusions. John Hardoon is an avid Ragozin sheet, and a lot of times you guys fall on different horses.
Yes, yeah. It is interpretation. I try to keep it as simple as I can, Tom, because if you try to outsmart the sheet, everyone has giant egos, okay? So a lot of times we even try to show the sheets they're wrong indirectly. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
But as a handicapper,
you're smarter than the sheets.
Yeah, I'm smarter than these guys, and I'm going to go this way or that way. And I got some basic principles that I was taught. When I first started reading sheets, the gentleman who introduced me to the sheets told me, Brian, this is going to be hard to do. He said, but throw away your form. Don't look at a form. He says, don't look at the program. Don't look at the jockeys. Don't look at the trainers. Look at patterns and numbers. And he says, your success will be incredible. And I find that to be true when I go into like when we had during the crisis, we were running in the Midwest. I didn't know a jockey, a trainer from anybody. And I had some of the most amazing meets betting at home on the sheets on these bush little tracks.
Fauner Park, Mahoning Valley, whatever it might be.
Instead of seeing 12s and 10s, you saw 25s to 35s, right? But if you played 25, you beat the one that was running 35. So it stayed the same. And some of the payoffs were pretty monstrous, actually, for those crazy days.
Thesheets.com is where you can find more information on the Ragozin sheets. It's certainly an acquired taste, but certainly one that many people, including Hall of Fame trainer Bobby Frankel, super agent Ryan Anderson, of course, Bryan Carney, my seminar guest today, John Hardoon, all believe in. So certainly it's another weapon to perhaps add to your handicapping arsenal. Brian, let's take a look at race number 2. We're on the main track here, 6 furlongs in the distance. Race 2 also begins the 50-cent early pick 4. Fillies and Mares in for a $20,000 tag. Just a field of 5 after the scratch of number 2, a new piece, morning line favorite. Down on the rail, Little Rachel, 6-5 on the morning line. This trainer is one of my favorite trainers, and you personally know him.
I know him.
He does an outstanding job.
I know him very well. He says the horse is doing fine. I just don't like the one hole. Okay, I think that's a detriment, sprinting. And believe it or not, the 6 horse, if she goes back to her best number, she'll destroy this field. Okay, and her pattern says she very well could go back to her number today. She has a 12 to go back to. The rest of these horses run 16s and 15s and 18s. believe me, if she runs her 12 today, the race is all over, and we're going to get a fairly decent price on her.
4-1 on the morning line, Brian, is the morning line odds on your top selection of race 2, number 6, Saturday Heist. We also see you like Henry's Crazy Train, who's putting the blinkers on for trainer Doug O'Neill.
And I have him as my second choice in there.
Fair enough. 6 and 4 to round out the early double in race number 2. Let's take a look at race number 3 back on the turf course. This time sprinting 5.5 furlongs in the flat turf course. Another claiming race. $25,000 is the claiming tag. Mike Pipey has 2 in here, including the morning line favorite on the bottom, number 7, Chaos Theory, fresh off a victory with Hector Barrios in the saddle. Give us your thoughts in race 3, Brian.
You know, this is a very difficult race, but I actually have 2 horses that I like here. I actually like Bryan Carney's horse. I love the pattern on the horse, and he has a good enough number to go back to that he can win this race for sure. But I have a long shot in here that if you don't use him in your trifecta and in your superfecta, you won't hit it, okay? So the horse is the number 5, Winding, and don't be surprised if he actually wins the race, because he actually also has a number that is good enough to win this race to go back to in this past class. So part of it would be, I'd say, look at the horses, see how they look coming out onto the track, and if he's hitting the, you know, I do a lot of handicapping with Larry Zapp. We'll sit together at the table, and he'll take his camera and he'll measure the horse, and if he tells me this horse measures really well, yeah, I don't care if it's 50-1. If that has a number to go back to that can win the race, I will play that horse.
Number 5, Winding, has been running under the lights at Los Alamitos across town. I'm curious, Brian, does the sheet do numbers for the nighttime signal at Los Alamitos or just the daytime thoroughbreds?
Daytime thoroughbreds, and they do some numbers for the 4.5 furlongs,
right,
but they don't do them for the 1,000 yards.
Interesting.
They're not thoroughbred. Those are considered mixed breeds, so
gotcha.
They don't have numbers for those. And you can get fooled, okay, on that. But Winding just ran a very good number in the 4.5 furlong, and if he translates that into this race here, he could do some real damage.
4-1 over 20-1, numbers 1 and 5 in race number 3. So says our seminar guest, Bryan Carney. Race number 4 begins the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Boy, oh boy, did somebody get super close yesterday. There was one live ticket going in the last leg in excess of $200,000 if the number 1 horse from the Jeff Mullins Jr. barn had won. Unfortunately for that player, but fortunately for us, that horse finished 3rd, and therefore the jackpot single ticket carryover continues to grow. $145,000 is now in the jackpot single ticket carryover, and we kick things off here in race number 4, sprinting 6 furlongs in the main track. Maiden claiming Calbred, fillies and mares, $50,000 is the claiming tag. Scratch the 4, Blazing Bardot, leaves us with a field of 7. Morning line favorite coming back quickly. Bryan Carney's favorite angle is number 6, A Little Bit Crazy, 9-5 on the morning line. Many people have said you're a little bit crazy. Do you like A Little Bit Crazy in race number 4?
He's my second choice, Tom. Okay, I actually think I'm going to key the 8 horse. We're going to give the players a chance to really make a nice
boy, 12-1 on the morning line.
Eric Kruljack, he is a very, very good conditioner. Okay,
excellent.
He ran this horse first time out in the straight maiden over a year ago, and the horse ran a 22. Okay, which is really a good number for a straight maiden. Now she's had a year off. She's in for the 50 today. He will have this horse ready to run. And if he has her ready to run with the sheet, if you go 12 months later, the sheets, in my opinion, every month a young horse improves approximately 3/4 of a point. It's not how much time you give him off, because I always hear everybody say it's time. Well, sometimes you give a horse off 2 months, he's going to automatically improve 2 points. So they act like, well, hey, see, you give the horse time and he gets better. Well, he's going to get better anyway if he's a 3-year-old. And they also keep that progression up through the early part of their 4-year-old. The best horses, in my opinion, to claim are horses that are just coming out of the 3s. Catch the guys that are taking a 3-year-old, non-winners of 2 life, and you can get some really nice horses that can really move up the class ladder. So I look for improving 3-year-olds in those limited condition races, because they go straight from there, and a lot of times they go straight up the ladder.
One of the things Brian's pointed out during the 20 minutes or so we've had him on is you need to go beyond the racing form. You need to know who the players are, in this particular case, trainer Eric Kruljack. as Bryan mentioned, does such a good job with layoff runners. Also, you just kind of need to think about things rather than just looking at numbers in the racing form. It makes sense that these animals would improve over time just from a physical and mental standpoint. It's not necessarily, as Bryan mentioned, the time they have off. It's just that they're maturing because they're lightly raced and young animals.
You know, I don't know if you've seen the Norm Cash, who had the winningest thoroughbred in America last year. He started 30 times. Okay, and if you read about Mr. Cash, he only started training a little over 2 years ago. And he said he loves to claim horses that have been lightly raced with lots of big time between races, because he believes a horse should perform every 7 to 14 days. Okay, regardless, he said they need to do something, and he only trains his own horses, so he doesn't have to listen to owners or anybody's opinion if they're abusing their horse or they're running too much or they're not running enough. But he's a guy that will run a horse. You know, he won the Kelso Handicap with a horse that had run 7 days before in an allowance race, and he ran 5th. And he had the nerve to put him in the Kelso, okay, 7 days later, and he won the Kelso and he paid $80. Okay, so it's pretty amazing. Sometimes, you know, we call them cutback runbacks, and you'd be shocked at how many times that it works, and it works to the owner and the trainer's advantage. But he trains his own. He said in his article that he's only lost money 1 month out of the last 18 months he's been training, and he has 51 horses in his stable.
Ties back to race number 4, Bryan, the horse we were talking about, a little bit crazy. Everybody thinks Mr. Cash is a little bit crazy, but turns out he's a wily fox in retrospect.
Yes.
Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 5 back on the turf course, back around 2 turns. 1 mile's the distance. $25,000 is the claiming tag. Scratch the 6. Leaves us with a field of 6. Number 1, Southern King from the aforementioned Bryan Corner barn is 2-1 on the morning line. You talked about how you like Bryan Corner in race number 3. Do you like him in race number 5?
No, I do not. I actually like.
Not personally. You don't like the horse.
No.
Yeah,
Bryan,
yeah.
hey, listen, Bryan's a very good trainer. Does a good job. His horses always look immaculate when they come into the paddock.
Nothing personal in handicapping.
No.
All right, we know you don't like the rail in race 5, but we can see you like the 7. Tell us why.
Leonard Powell has been doing a tremendous job with his horses. They come over, their flesh looks fantastic. And the pattern on this horse is he's every bit as good as the one, if not maybe, I think, a little bit better pattern-wise than the one. But the other horse that I have for second, Niles Channel, okay, this is a grass horse, and they ran him on the dirt, and I'm not so sure they didn't just run him on there to dirty up his form a little bit. And today, now, they take the blinkers off, and they put him back on the grass, and if he runs 2 of his best races, he actually can win. So if you're playing pick 3s or pick 4s, you got to use the 4 and the 7, in my opinion. And you put Bryan's horse in because he does have good numbers, but I think we might be able to catch a nice pick 3 or a pick 4 for people that play horizontal. As you know, Tom, I'm a vertical player. I don't play horizontal.
Bryan makes some compelling arguments today so far through 5 races that although the fields might be considered small by some players, it could be a price bonanza given some of his selections based upon his analysis of the ragas and sheets. Let's turn the page, Bryan. Take a look at race number 6. Mile and a 16th on the main track, which also begins the 50-cent late pick 4. Maiden special weight 3-year-olds. This looks to be a talented field, at least on paper. Bob Baffert has 2, including the morning line favorite, number 2, Harlow Cap, who's 8-5 on John White's morning line. Some of these horses might go on to be potentially future stakes winners. We'll find out. But for today's purposes, who do you like and why?
This is a wide open race, but I give the edge to the 1. In my opinion, Pete Erden, a lot of times his horses improve quite a bit their second start. One thing about Bob Baffert, and I was Bob Baffert's second owner when he got into the thoroughbred racing game. And Bob and I have been very, very good friends for a very, very long time. I recently they damn near died from COVID. And the one guy who would text me regularly while I was in the ICU was Bob Baffert to check to see how I was feeling.
It's what you do when you're not in the spotlights that kind of defines you as a human being, right? You're very generous as well. I talked about that in the opening, but you always try and help people and pull them up by their bootstraps if they're in a time of need.
Yeah, and it was funny with my doctor, when we were in the room and Bob had texted me, it was about 15 minutes before they were going to run the Del Mar Futurity. And my doctor says, "You know Bob Baffert?" I said, "Oh yeah, he's a good friend there. I just got a text from him. He says he's gonna win this Del Mar Futurity today." I said, "So we'll get to watch him."
Well, that made you feel better in a hurry.
Oh, I felt great. So But anyway.
Race number 7, we've got, let's see here, 7 minutes to go through 3 races. We've got plenty of time to chit-chat. Brian, race number 7, we're sprinting on the turf course, 6 furlongs the distance. It's a starter allowance race. We've got a field of 7 and a first-time gelding, number 4, King Apollo, but the morning line favorite drawn right inside is Cotton Daddy, number 3, from the George Papadromo barn. 5-2 on the morning line. What do the sheets tell you in race 7?
Believe it or not, I actually love Kristen Mulhol's horse, King Apollo. Number one, she is very good at getting horses off of a long layoff, and it shows when you look at her sheets. Every time she brings a horse back, they usually run they usually run their best race. So she does have them ready. The fact that she went to Frankie Dettori, okay, tells me she's not going to his agent saying, "Hey, I want you to just give this horse a spin." Okay, she's saying,
mean business.
We're ready, and we're here to win. Okay, and I believe that she will get the job done today. And I do, Conch Daddy, I'm between him and the 6, but on my list there, I listed the 6 because he's shortening back up. And I like the fact when they shorten back up and have good numbers to go back to.
Race number 8 begins the $1 Golden Hour pick 4, linking our last 2 races here at San Anita with the last 2 races at Golden Gate. Did you see what it paid yesterday? It paid in excess of $75,000 for a $1 wager. There were only 2 winning tickets. Congratulations to those skilled and lucky ticket holders. But we start fresh here today in race number 8, sprinting 6 furlongs in the main track. Allowance optional claiming types, fillies and mares. Scratch the 6, leaves us with a field of 7. Vladimir Serin has 2 in here, but the morning line favorite from the Peter Miller barn, number 7, American Lily. Last time tried turf, now back to dirt. You've talked about that angle a lot. Is she a slam dunk here?
I say yes. This is probably the most likely winner of the day for me. And, my second choice was going to be Mongolian Panther, but she scratched. So then Bowl of Cherries in her previous race, that was, believe it or not, one of my best bets of the day. And I think she was 10 or 12 to 1 or something like that. I know we got a really good price on her, and her sheet was very good that day against the horses she was running against. But I think with Hernandez, Pete Miller, and he recently started training for Kaleem Shah, so Pete's gonna try to win every race he can for that guy. Not that he doesn't try to win for everybody, because that guy's a very competitive fella. But I think today this horse will be ready to run and run a huge race today.
American Lily, Brian's top selection is the morning line favorite. He mentioned Bowl of Cherries. As you look through Bowl of Cherries' past performances, you can see it sure looks like she prefers sprinting on the main track. You draw a line through all those turf races earlier on in her career and just focus on those sprint races. She suddenly turned into a tiger. They claimed her 2 races back, and now they're trying the non-winners of 1 condition. We close out the day, and we close out the week in race number 9. Keep in mind, live racing here will resume on Friday at the Great Race Place. Friday is our next racing day. 8 races, 12:30 p.m. First post. But first things first, race 9 offers $5 Golden Hour daily double wagering. Similar concept. Last race here with the last race at Golden Gate. Sprinting 6.5 furlongs on the flat turf course for maiden special weight 3-year-old fillies. 1 scratch. Scratch the also eligible number 12. Leaves us with a field of 11. Lukewarm morning line favorite, the first time an expensive, well-bred daughter of Bolt d'Oro, number 5. Ruby Nell, 7-2 on the morning line. This is probably the most difficult race for you, Brian, because there's no sheet numbers. And I've seen many times in your program, you'll just draw a line through it. You don't need to bet every race.
I don't bet it. I very rarely, I use a line that a lot of people get mad at me when I say it. But I say, an old timer told me that if you bet maiden races, you'll live in your car. Okay, and people get mad at me when I say that, but I just stay away from them. And I've always, Tom knows what my biggest gripe when there's handicapping contests is when they have a key race in a contest and it's a maiden race with no form. Okay, that's not the way you pick. That's not the way handicapping should be done. Yeah, you got to look at pedigree and everything else, but you don't know when they're giving them a race, getting ready for a race. There's
preferred surface.
So to me, you're on your own, and I don't ever try to give horses. But now, I actually think if I was going to bet this race, I think the 9 is a great play, only for 2 reasons. Cutter Racing, unlimited budget. Simon Callahan does a great job of getting horses ready. And again, you got to have a pretty good story to get Frankie Dettori to ride your horse. Okay, so I'm guarantee he went with confidence on this horse to get him to ride this horse.
Brian, we talk about some of your passions in life, and certainly horse racing is one of them. But another passion is you like fast cars. You have almost like a sport jacket, a different car almost every month or every year. What's the current vehicle you're tooling around and parking in valet parking?
I had the good fortune to get the first 2023 ZL1 Camaro. That's
Sounds fast.
It's a limited edition Camaro. It has the 650 horsepower Corvette motor in it. And the only reason I didn't get a Z06 or I've had several Z06s. I probably had 8 of them. As a matter of fact, I got the first ZR1 in the history of General Motors back in 1986. But this car has 650 horsepower, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, but I love fast cars, and if nothing else, I like when you go onto the freeway ramp, there isn't anybody that can beat you to the open spot when you're in this car. So you don't have to go 100 miles an hour, but you can sure go 0 to 60 really fast.
Brian, you're crazy like a fox. I'm honored to have you as a friend. Thank you so much for your time and insight today. Continued success, not only at the windows, but with all of your babies all around the country.
Hey, thanks, Tom. And tell Chris I said hi.
I'll do that, Brian. Thanks so much for your time.
Take care.
Thanks to all of you for watching as well. Keep in mind the $1 Coast to Coast Pick 5 starts around 12:39. It'll kick off at Gulfstream Park. That's a new wager you want to get involved with as well. Next voice you hear will be track announcer Frank Miramati updating us with any late program changes. There you go, 12:38. Race 8 at Gulfstream Park is when the $1 Coast to Coast Pick 5 kicks off. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day and good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy in the city of Monterey Park, just 10 miles from Santa Anita, has deeply affected the San Gabriel Valley community and indeed communities around our country. Our hearts are with those who are affected by this senseless act of violence, and we will keep them in our thoughts. We ask that you join us in a moment of silence for the Monterey Park victims and their families. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the Run Happy Winner's Circle, and we welcome Tiger Herda, who will perform the Stars Spangled Banner. Tiger is a 12-year-old from Eastville, California. Please rise to honor America as we proudly present our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wrecked there, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free
Excellent job, Tiger Herda. Thanks for coming out. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. Here are the changes. The track is fast, the turf firm, rail on the turf at 10 feet. We have a blinker node in the first, start of the early pick 5. In the second, scratch number 2, a new piece. There are no changes in the third race. In the fourth, scratch 4, Blazing Bardot. The Rainbow Six starts with the fourth. There's 145,000 in the jackpot. In the fifth, scratch 6, Tembo, and as a result, no high 5 wagering. Late pick 5 starts with the fifth. Blinker note in race 6. In the seventh race, no changes. 8 starts the Golden Hour pick 4, scratch 6, Mongolian Panther. And in the ninth, scratch number 12, Conceal and Carry. Golden Hour double starts with the ninth. On Saturdays and Sundays, we offer the Coast to Coast Pick 5, a player-friendly 15% takeout and a $1 minimum wager. Yesterday's payoff more than $4,000. Daily racing form past performances for the new Coast to Coast Pick 5 are available for free by visiting santaanita.com/coast. You'll also find all the details on how to get free trip notes from our friends at Trip Note Pros for all 5 of the races. Today's Coast to Coast Pick 5 has races 8, 9, and 10 from Gulfstream and races 3 and 5 from Santa Anita. Post time for the first leg of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 is at 12:38 p.m. Pacific time, which is 32 minutes away. 32 minutes to the start of the Coast to Coast Pick 5.
Reverse Racing, I'm Michelle Yu. We're going to take a look at the Coast to Coast Pick 5 for this Sunday. If you haven't played this wager before, it is a 5-race sequence between Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita. It is a $1 minimum wager, and it is a player-friendly low 15% takeout. Let's jump right into the action. Leg A will be at Gulfstream Park. It is their race number 8, 5 furlongs on the turf. As you can see, I spread in here. My top selection is the 2 No Angel off the class drop and first off the claim. But if you're going to use more, there's plenty of options, including the 4 Sousa Summer for Bill Mott with a big turn back in distance. Leg number 2 is going to be a 6 furlong allowance affair. I went too deep in here using the morning line favorite, the 6, but don't sleep on the 1 Diamond Wow. This 4-year-old daughter of Looking at Lucky adds blinkers for Patrick Biancone, and it'll be the first time that she tries to face allowance company. Let's jump over to the West Coast for the 3rd leg here at the Great Race Place. Going to be a 5.5 furlong turf event. I went 2 horses deep in here. My top pick is going to be the 7 Chaos Theory, who's coming off a win last time out, and a little bit more ground should certainly suit. For leg D, we'll head back to Gulfstream Park, where I spread in this particular race, but the 9 will be my top selection, Media Sensation for Kathleen O'Connell, who just missed last time out. And for the finale, 1 mile on the turf at Santa Anita, it is their race number 5. I went too deep in here. The 1 Southern King for Bryan Carney, who I expect to see on the pace. And I also used the 5 Big Buzz for Reed Saldana. Blinkers on, a big step up in class first off the claim, but he does return to the turf course, and he's got a great pedigree for the grass. Good luck, everybody, in your Coast to Coast Pick 5s.
We're ready for the start. They're off.